What's up guys, HockeyDude1940 here, and in this video I want to talk about the 2015 NHL Awards. Now, a couple days ago was actually the 1-year anniversary of my channel. June 20th, 2014, I posted my first video. It was about the Brad Richards buyout, and the Rangers bought out Brad Richards, and then a few days later, actually, June 24th, 2014, I posted a video pretty much the exact same as I'm going to do it in this video, talking about the NHL Awards. The NHL Awards are actually on the 24th this year, so I wanted to get this video up a couple days before the awards and pretty much just discuss the nominees and who I think is going to win. So yeah, we're going to jump right into this. As you guys can see on the screen, it's just basically a slideshow of the nominees of for each trophy, and you guys will see who I picked to be the winner. And at the end, you guys can put in the comments who you think are going to be the winners and why. And then on the 24th, we'll see. So let's jump right into this. All right, so the Selke Trophy for the best defensive forward in the NHL. And the three nominees are Patrice Bergeron of the Boston Bruins, Anze Kopitar of the LA Kings, and Jonathan Toews of the Chicago Blackhawks. So I didn't really know what stats to go by for this. I tried looking up takeaway stats, and I found a site with like takeaways and takeaway percentages and takeaway differential, like plus minus basically. And I didn't see any of these guys really at the top. I saw Toews up there a little bit, but really it was guys like Ryan O'Reilly, Mark Stone, Rick Nash at like the top of the board. So, and then I even looked at plus minus, and even plus minus, these guys aren't the best. So I don't know what stats they go by to pick this trophy. I know these three guys are known to be great defensive players, but I don't know what stats they went by to pick them for the nominees. So I really have nothing to go off of for this one. It's not like other awards where I can look at stats and that kind of thing. But obviously Kopitar, I really didn't get to see it all this year play. Bergeron a little bit, but I'm just gonna say Jonathan Toews. I mean, the Bruins weren't the greatest this year, and Kopitar, his plus minus was -2 this season, which for the Selke Trophy, best defensive player, if he was a -2, if they were scoring a lot when he was out there, I can't imagine he was doing great defensively. So I'm going to give it to Captain Series, Jonathan Toews. Up next, the Calder Memorial Trophy for the top rookie of the NHL, and the three nominees are Aaron Ekblad of the Florida Panthers, Johnny Gaudreau of the Calgary Flames, and Mark Stone of the Ottawa Senators. Now this is a really tough one. This is really, really close because all three of these rookies were just amazing this season. There were even a few rookies that didn't make it on the list that could have easily made it. But Aaron Ekblad just was amazing this season. His first year in the NHL, obviously, as the other guys. But he played with the Florida Panthers. I mean, all three of these teams, though, Florida, Calgary, and Ottawa, three teams that didn't make the playoffs last year, and I guess we're expected to miss it again this year. And Gaudreau and Stone were two guys that led their teams to the playoffs, and then Ekblad and the Panthers almost made it to the playoffs. So all three of these rookies were huge contributors in their team's success this season. Starting off with Aaron Ekblad, I mean, 39 points in his first year as a defenseman for the Florida Panthers. I mean, that is excellent. And it's not like he's playing with a Shea Weber or a Duncan Keith or whatever. He's playing, with Brian Campbell, Willie Mitchell, Dmitry Kulikov. He's not playing with all-stars here, and he was getting it done. I remember the first few weeks of the season, people were saying he's playing like a 25-plus-year-old player. How mature he was and just how well he was playing. He was a plus 12 as well on the Florida Panthers. And he actually, interesting stat here, he had 4 game-winning goals, so just an excellent year for Aaron Ekblad. And then Johnny Gaudreau, the Johnny Hockey, the little man. I mean, for his size, what he did this year, I mean, the guy's hands are just unbelievable. He's such a great young talent for the Flames. They've got a great player of the future there in Johnny Gaudreau. And he just had an excellent year, 64 points, as well as Mark Stone, who also had 64 points for the Senators. And I'll never forget that goal at the end of the year that he scored. I believe, I might get this wrong, but I believe it was against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Senators were losing in the game like 4-3, and they pulled their goalie in with like a minute left or whatever, less than a minute. He tied up the game, sent it to overtime, and then the Senators won in overtime. It was unbelievable, and that really was the game that allowed them to go on and eventually clinch a playoff spot. So I believe if they lost that game, they either would have been in a very bad spot, barely being able to clinch the playoffs, or they would have missed the playoffs if they lost that game, because that was huge, and Mark Stone came up huge for them. But I mean, all three of these guys, it's so hard to pick. It's so hard to pick, but you know what? I'm going to go with Johnny Gaudreau, just because I think the Flames, they just had an unbelievable year, and I think Johnny Gaudreau, for his size, he reminds me so much of Marty St. Louis, just a small guy. You wouldn't expect them to do this well, and he did amazing on a team that, like I said, missed the playoffs last year, and he took them to a whole nother level. So I'm going to give it to Johnny Gaudreau, but I mean, any of these three guys can easily win this award. I wouldn't be surprised if it went to either of the other two guys and not Gaudreau, but if I have to pick one, if you put me at gunpoint, I would say Johnny Gaudreau. Now up next, the Vezina Trophy, another tough one. I think this is the year where there are quite a few tough ones. Normally, I'll be able to just pick one right off the bat. I think last year I got more than half of them correct with my my guesses, but this year I think I'm just gonna be way off just because there are so many different possibilities. But the Vezina Trophy, and the nominees are Devin Dubnyk of the Minnesota Wild, Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens, and Pekka Rinne of the Nashville Predators. And all three of these goalies were unreal this season. Starting with Devin Dubnyk. I mean, this guy, who would have thought? He's actually nominated for another award, but we'll get to that later. But Devin Dubnyk, outstanding year. I mean, I remember back when he was with the Edmonton Oilers, and he just wasn't getting it done, and the Oilers were still just a horrible team, and they got rid of him. He ended up signing with the Coyotes in the offseason, and he ended up going to Arizona. Apparently, he had a great goalie coach there that helped him out a lot. And then he got traded over to Minnesota, I think for like a third-round pick or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the deal was. I'm pretty sure it was a third-round pick. And now he's a Vezina Trophy nominee. He led the Minnesota Wild to the second round of the playoffs. So, I mean, he was just unbelievable this season. And listen to these records. I mean, even with the Arizona Coyotes, before he got traded to the Wild, his record was 9-5-2. Now remember, the Coyotes finished second to last in the league this year, but he had a record at the beginning of the year of 9-5-2. So he was doing well before they even traded him. His record after he got traded to the Minnesota Wild, his record in the regular season was 27-9-2. His goals against average was 1.78, and his save percentage was .936. I mean, those are just unbelievable numbers, and 5 shutouts. I mean, those are just unbelievable numbers. I mean, less than 2 goals against, far less than 2 goals against per game. A .936 save percentage and just a great record. I mean, Devin Dubnyk saved the Minnesota Wild season and just led them into the playoffs. It was unbelievable, that story. They do have to get him re-signed this offseason. There's no doubt that they will, but oh man, what a year. And then Carey Price, I mean, I've got to say, it has to be Carey Price. It just has to be Carey Price. He absolutely just carried the Canadiens this season. I mean, PK Subban had a great year. Pacioretty had a great year. But, I mean, Carey Price just put the team on his back. And, oh, man, Carey Price, he was unbelievable this year. And he's nominated for a couple more awards that we'll get to later. But Carey Price's record this season, 44-16-6. Are you kidding me? That is just a crazy record with a goals against average of 1.96 and a save percentage of .933 and 9 shutouts. I mean, Carey Price was just lights out this season. Oh, man, he just dominated and just led the Canadiens. I mean, goaltenders more than anyone can impact teams the most. I mean, you can say a guy like Crosby or first-line centers, defensemen, those guys can really impact a team. If a goaltender is at the top of his game and he can just single-handedly win you games and put you into the playoffs, and that's what guys like Devin Dubnyk and Carey Price did. And then moving on to Pekka Rinne, another great year for Pekka Rinne. He had an off year last year, but he came back with a vengeance this year. 41, 17, and 6, with a goals against average of 2.18 and a save percentage of .923 with 4 shutouts. I don't see Rinne winning this award. I mean, Rinne did have an unbelievable season, but just comparing the numbers and just when you look at what Dubnyk and Price did, it's just unbelievable. I mean, no, Dubnyk didn't play 60-plus games like those two guys, but Dubnyk, I mean, he was just insane. But if I had to pick a winner, I would have to say Carey Price. I picked Carey Price as the Vezina Trophy winner basically back in January, and not even Dubnyk has changed my mind since then. I'm going with Carey Price, and I can see it possibly being Dubnyk. I don't see it being Rinne, but yeah, I've got to say Carey Price. 99.99% sure it's going to be Carey Price. Now, up next, the James Norris Trophy for the best defenseman in the NHL. First nominee, Drew Doughty from the Los Angeles Kings, Erik Karlsson from the Ottawa Senators, and PK Subban from the Montreal Canadiens. And this is... I don't think this one's as tough. Normally, in past years, this is one of the toughest ones for me. But I'm going to have to give it to Erik Karlsson right off the bat of the Ottawa Senators, their captain. Karlsson was just unbelievable. Like I said before about Mark Stone and those guys leading their team into the playoffs, that's what Karlsson did this season. I mean, he didn't just put up points. He was their true captain this year. He's grown into just such a mature player and captain. And he was outstanding this season for the Senators. He and their new coach, and the rookies of Hoffman and Stone. I mean, they just had a great year. Karlsson, 66 points as he normally does. Last time he won the Norris Trophy, what did he get? 70 points or 75, 74 points or something like that, or 79 it may have even been. I don't know, 70 something points. It was insane. And he won the Norris Trophy, and I think he's going to get his second one here. The Super Swede captain defenseman. But 66 points, and 30 of those points came on the power play. So he's just unstoppable on the power play. And then PK Subban, another great year for PK, the reigning Norris Trophy winner from last year. He had 60 points this year, did great for the Canadiens. But then Drew Doughty, 46 points. For Drew Doughty, not a bad season, but the LA Kings, there are quite a few, not quite a few LA Kings, Kopitar's in a couple of nominations, and Doughty's in this one, but I don't know, the Kings didn't have a great year, but it seems like individuals did pretty well, but I just don't see Drew Doughty in any way beating these two guys. The only thing Doughty has over these two guys is he had the most amount of ice time. Drew Doughty was being worked this season, kind of like Duncan Keith for the Blackhawks, and Shea Weber and Ryan Suter, for the Predators in the Wild. Drew Doughty played almost 30 minutes a game this year, almost half the game. He played 28 minutes and 59 seconds, so almost 29 minutes a game for the LA Kings. Karlsson, I think, was like 27, and Subban was like 26 and a half or something like that. But yeah, Doughty was playing a lot, especially after Slava Voinov got suspended. Doughty's playing pretty much the entire game, so that's pretty incredible for him to have as good of a year as he did, with all the pressure on him, and also the Kings team themselves not doing so well. But if I had to pick one, I would easily be able to pick Erik Karlsson, and I wouldn't see it any other way. Now up next, the Hart Memorial Trophy for the league MVP. Now I could have saved this one for last, but I have a list here, and I'm just going to go in order based on that, or else I'll end up getting confused. So let's jump right into the league MVP. And the nominees are Alexander Ovechkin from the Washington Capitals, Carey Price from the Montreal Canadiens, and John Tavares from the New York Islanders. And all three of these guys truly were MVPs of the NHL this season. I mean, Alexander Ovechkin had an incredible comeback year with the Capitals. I mean, last year they missed the playoffs. The year before that, or no, actually, was it last year? Yeah, I think it was actually last year. He went like minus 32 or something crazy like that. They missed the playoffs. He just had an off year last year. He still won the Rocket Richard. He scored all of his goals, but all around just wasn't a great player. But then this year, well, I wouldn't say he wasn't a great player. He just wasn't, Hart Trophy, two-way player, true captain, if you know what I mean. But this year Ovechkin just completely turned it around. He not only got his 50 goals and his Rocket Richard, but he was just a true captain for the Capitals. He's such an exciting player to watch. You know, in the Winter Classic, he was getting all pumped up, and I was so glad that was in Washington for Ovechkin, because he really soaked it all in and just tore that thing up. I was so glad the Capitals won for Ovechkin, and I scored the opening goal, which was really cool. But the guy lives for the big moments. It stinks that he can't get past the second round. Not so much this year because the Rangers beat him, so I was happy about that. But I hope in the future that as long as he doesn't go up against the Rangers, I hope that Ovechkin does eventually make it to the Cup final and win the Cup. He's definitely one of those guys out there that has to win the Cup before he retires. There's no way he can't, whether he does it in Washington or somewhere else. But I mean, this year he was just truly a captain. He was throwing his body around again. He was playing good defensively. He was getting all of his points. He was just unstoppable this year. He was incredible. And he even tried in the playoffs to guarantee a Game 7 victory. He was putting himself out there, but his team just couldn't back him up. And unfortunately, the Capitals were knocked out. Well, not unfortunately for me, but unfortunately for them, they were knocked out in the second round of the Rangers again. But yeah, there's Ovechkin's argument. Now to Carey Price, again, Carey Price was the MVP of the Canadiens. To me, he's going to win the Vezina Trophy, in my mind. But man, the Hart Trophy, I did say a couple months ago that I guessed Carey Price would win it, but I don't know, man. Against Ovechkin, it'll be tough. But Carey Price truly was the Canadiens' just MVP this season. They went to the second round. They did get beat by the Lightning. But I mean, that was just Canadiens' sloppy play and the Lightning just dominating. And as good as they were able to beat the Canadiens. Carey Price wasn't even able to stop them. But I mean, I already gave my my speech for Carey Price before, basically, so I won't go through the whole thing again. But now going over to John Tavares, he was amazing for the Islanders this season. I mean, he led them, that guy. I mean, such a good two-way player and point producer and just a captain. I mean, that first overall pick for the Islanders back in 2009, I believe it was, he was selected first. Yeah, 2009, because 2008 was Stamkos, I think. It was 2010 was, yeah, so 2009, first overall pick, John Tavares. Couldn't have panned out any better for the Islanders. He led them back to the playoffs this year. They were in first in the Metro division for most of the year, but then they just fell off at the end. Unfortunately, they were knocked out in the first round. I was really hoping the Rangers would have faced the Islanders in the second round. That would have been an unbelievable matchup. It would have been so much fun to watch, but they got knocked out in Game 7. But John Tavares was the Islanders this season, and obviously all three of these guys were their teams. You know, Ovechkin was the Capitals. Carey Price, along with PK Subban and Pacioretty, was the Canadiens, and John Tavares is the New York Islanders, and he always will be. But oh man, if I had to pick one, oh, it's so tough. But I'm gonna have to say Carey Price, because to me, for this award, it's got to be the guy who impacts their team the most, and really just, I think Carey Price just carried the Canadiens this season. I mean, 9 shutouts, the record that he had, the numbers, goals against average and save percentage, he was just unreal. I got to give it to Carey Price. I can, like before what I said about the Calder, I can easily see it going to Ovechkin or Tavares, but if I had to pick one, I'm going to have to pick Carey Price. Now moving on to the Bill Masterton Trophy, and I don't think I've ever been more interested in seeing who's going to win this award. It's basically an award given to the player who overcame the most, adversity, and it stinks, like all trophies, that they have to pick one winner. Only 3 guys can be nominated. All 3 of these guys really do deserve it. But the 3 nominees are Devan Dubnyk of the Minnesota Wild, Andrew Hammond, the Hamburglar of the Ottawa Senators, and Chris Letang of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, Devan Dubnyk, of course, the adversity was he was on the Arizona Coyotes. He, before, years ago, he was a high prospect goaltender. He was expected to be really good, but then he was in Edmonton, and of course, nobody in Edmonton's done really well. Went to Arizona, started to do well again, and then he, like I said before, he had a great goaltending coach in Arizona. taught him well. He went to Minnesota. They gave him the chance. You know, and actually last year, or the year before that, Josh Harding was up for this award, which is kind of ironic that another Minnesota goaltender is up for it. But, you know, I guess you could say he was lucky, if you would call it lucky enough, for Nicholas Backstrom to be injured, Harding to be injured, Kemper to not be doing well, for him to be able to step right in and faced all the adversity and just carry the Minnesota Wild out of nowhere. No one expected. And then up next, Andrew Hammond. I mean, this guy also, another guy that just came out of nowhere. I mean, what was his record in the regular season? Like 19-1-0 or something like that? The one loss was to the New York Rangers. That was a fun night. Tanner Glass scored in that game, man. That was the only goal of the season that Tanner Glass gets was against Andrew Hammond for Hammond's first loss. That was great. But he almost had a perfect record after, you know, he came up from the AHL. He didn't even have great numbers in the AHL. I'd never even heard of Andrew Hammond before until he started going on this hot streak with the Ottawa Senators. He was just tearing it up, and now I believe he's a free agent. They actually have to sign him. I already made a separate video on that about the 4 goaltenders in Ottawa, but yeah, Andrew Hammond. You know, no one expected him to come up from the minors and do as well as he did, carrying the team like that, but he sure did. He carried them into the playoffs along with Erik Karlsson and Mark Stone, and yeah, Andrew Hammond, the Hamburglar, great year. I mean, will he be able to do it again next year? I don't know. I don't think so. Sorry, Ottawa fans, and I'm sorry if you guys disagree with me. I understand if you do, but I don't think Hammond is going to continue his hot streak. I don't think he's done. You know, I don't think he's gonna pull like a I wouldn't say Brizgalov, because Brizgalov, that was a completely different situation, but you know, I just don't see Hammond coming into next year being a starter or anything, or even being a starter in the future, or even going to a team like Edmonton or Buffalo and being a starter. I don't picture him having another season like this year like he did before. Devin Dubnyk, I can see it, but Hammond, I just don't see it, unfortunately. But then up next, Chris Letang, and this guy, feels so bad for Chris Letang and the Pittsburgh Penguins. How many concussions this guy's gone through. He even had a stroke. I believe, I forget whether it was last year or early this year, he had a stroke, which was just really scary. And, you know, it's great to see that he came out of that all right. He still hasn't played in a long time. Hopefully he comes back. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know if he'll ever play again. I really hope he does. For his sake and the Pittsburgh Penguins' sake, it was so sad to see what happened to Nathan Horton. In fact, that he may never even put on skates again. But for Chris Letang, I really hope he does come back and play for the Penguins again. Just play in general again. You know, just such a young, talented player. It would suck to see him go down with all these injuries and not be able to play again. So if I had to give this award to someone, it's so tough because you have different scenarios. You know, Dubnyk before was, like I said, a highly anticipated prospect goaltender that didn't really work out, but then all of a sudden came out of nowhere and proved everyone wrong. Andrew Hammond just straight up came out of nowhere and just dominated. And then Chris Letang, unlike the other guys, has an injury, and he's faced multiple injuries and has come over them. So it's so tough to pick. I can see any one of these guys winning it, but my pick is just going to be Chris Letang, just because I feel really bad for him. Not because I think he... Yeah, I'm just going to have to pick Chris Letang. I can see anybody's argument for any one of these three guys, but I'm just going to say Chris Letang. Now moving on to the NHL Foundation Player Award. And this one, let's just read the nominees off. First off, Brent Burns of the San Jose Sharks, Mark Giordano of the Calgary Flames, and Henrik Lundqvist of the New York Rangers. So I don't really have an argument for Brent Burns and Mark Giordano because I really truly have no idea what they did. This basically is the player who contributed most to, you know, stuff outside of hockey, is, you know, for example, charities and stuff like that. Their contribution off the ice. And I'm not even going to try to make something up. I didn't even try to look it up. I don't know what Brent Burns and Mark Giordano did. You San Jose fans and Calgary fans will know. But I know very well what Henrik Lundqvist did to be nominated. He basically started this series after he got his injury in that game against Carolina back in January, I think it was, January or February. He got that puck to the throat, and he was injured for about a month and a half, and basically during that time, instead of sitting around on his couch doing nothing, he started this series called The Mask, and the series was aired on the MSG network, and basically what it was he collaborated with other celebrities and created these masks and just really cool creative mask designs. He made a bunch of different masks, and then when he came back from his injury, he wore a different mask each night. So basically, he would wear a mask that he designed with a celebrity, he would wear it for a night, and then after that night, he would auction it off as a game-used mask. So, one-of-a-kind, game-used Henrik Lundqvist mask, and he used the money that he made from those auctions to donate to charity. So, I know exactly what happened with that, the whole thing that Lundqvist did, but I don't know what Brent Burns and Mark Giordano did, I'm sorry. But, so, if I had to pick a winner, I guess I'll say Henrik Lundqvist, just because I don't know what the other guys did. But I'm sure they did something because they're nominated, so I guess it can go to anyone, but I guess it'll just be Lundqvist, I guess. But up next, the Mark Messier Leadership Award. The first nominee, Ryan Getzlaf of the Anaheim Ducks, Andrew Ladd of the Winnipeg Jets, and Jonathan Toews, Captain Series of the Chicago Blackhawks. So, it's actually kind of cool seeing Andrew Ladd and Jonathan Toews both be nominated for this, just because, in 2010, Toews and Ladd won the Cup with each other, in the same Blackhawks team, and now to see Ladd go to another team and be the captain, and, 2 cups later, Jonathan Toews is going up against him for this award. It's pretty cool to see, but yeah, so Ryan Getzlaf, he and Corey Perry, man, they just dominate, and they just lead Anaheim to all their success, but Ryan Kessler as well. But yeah, Ryan Getzlaf is just a great leader for this team. He's such a great player. Ryan Getzlaf, Jonathan Toews, these are guys who just define what a franchise is, and a face of a franchise. That's exactly what they are. They're, at least Getzlaf, he's big, he's a leader, he plays amazing offensively, defensively, he uses his size well, a good skater, he just does everything. I know in Game 6 and 7 of the Western Final, he didn't play so well. Maybe if he had played really well, the Ducks could have won that and gone to the Cup, and it would have been much different. But that's where the leadership of Jonathan Toews and the experience kicked in. So unfortunately, Getzlaf couldn't bring the Ducks all the way. But yeah, guys like Getzlaf and Toews, they're the definition of a leader and a captain. But yeah, so Getzlaf could definitely deserve this award. Up next, Andrew Ladd. I mean, the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets are just, oh man, I wouldn't say they're one of my favorite teams outside of the Rangers. I really don't have I can't say I have a second favorite team or anything like that. The Rangers are my favorite team. They always will be. If you point a gun to my head and say, if you had to pick a team other than the Rangers to cheer for, who would it be? I would still say New York Rangers and take the bullet. But, I mean, the Winnipeg Jets, they're just an awesome franchise. And I'm so glad that the Thrashers were taken out and Winnipeg took their place, just because the Winnipeg fans are just unbelievable. I mean, it was one of the best moments of the season for me to watch. That Game 4 against the Anaheim Ducks in Round 1, the Jets got swept by Anaheim. They got beat. They got swept. They were in every single game. They were competitive. They scored goals. They were in it. But they got swept. And the last game was on home ice. They were doing the white out. Everyone in the crowd was wearing white. And nobody left their seat. Well, no, people did leave their seats to stand up and clap for the Jets, but nobody left the building until the players left the ice. I mean, it was just unbelievable. After, even when the final seconds were ticking down and the Ducks, were celebrating the playoff victory, the Jets fans were cheering, and they were chanting, "Let's go Jets, let's go Jets," as they were going through the handshake line. The Jets, they saluted the crowd, and everyone was going crazy. This was after a loss, a sweep in round one, and they were this crazy just because their team made the playoffs and gave them something to cheer for. It was so cool to watch. But yeah, so Andrew Ladd, he was, of course, the captain of that team. So I obviously I didn't see the Jets play really at all this year just because they're in the Western Conference. I didn't watch them much in the playoffs just because games are on so late in the West. But I'm sure Andrew Ladd, I know how good of a leader he is, and I'm sure he was a great leader for that team. And he leads a great team. So he deserves it, at least a nomination. But now for my winner of the award, it's got to be Jonathan Toews. I mean, all these awards, they announce the nominees before the playoffs, so I assume they're taking these based on the regular season, but the playoffs have to have some kind of an impact, and Jonathan Toews is, in my mind, the best player in the NHL. I mean, not in the NHL, best player in the world. Who's the most talented player in the world? You could say Sidney Crosby or Alexander Ovechkin, but to me, the best hockey player in the world is Jonathan Toews. He just is. To me, to be the best hockey player in the world, you need leadership, offense, defense, everything. Not saying that Crosby doesn't provide all that, but Toews, to me, he's won 3 cups at 27 years old. He's won 2 gold medals. He's unbelievable. He's just, like I said before, just a definition of a captain and a face of a franchise. He led the Blackhawks to another cup. I'll never forget, also, I believe it was Game 5 against the Anaheim Ducks. Was it Game 5? Yeah, it was Game 5 against the Anaheim Ducks. The series was tied 2-2. The Blackhawks were down 4-2. And Jonathan Toews scored 2 goals in the final minute and 45 seconds of the third period. 2 goals by himself to lead his team into overtime. They ended up losing in that overtime, like 45 seconds in. But just that sequence, scoring 2 goals to give your team the chance to win, was just unbelievable. And then he played amazing in Games 6 and 7 to lead his team to the Cup. Was amazing in the Cup final. You didn't see him scoring a bunch of goals, but he did all the little things. He was amazing, and he always is. Wayne Gretzky said there are 3 seasons in hockey: the regular season, the first 3 rounds in the Cup, and of course there are the Olympics as well. And Jonathan Toews, no matter how big the stakes are, no matter how big the stage, he can perform, and he can be his absolute best. There's nothing that can stand in Jonathan Toews' way where he can't get it done. He's just amazing. I don't see anyone else winning this award for the next 10 years to come other than Jonathan Toews, as long as he can keep his legs underneath him. I mean, Jonathan Toews, he's my pick. I don't see it any other way. It's got to be Toews. Up next, the Ted Lindsay Award, which is basically the MVP of the league, voted on by the NHL Players Association. So, basically, I'd just be going on this basically the same as the Hart Trophy, and I'm not even going to go in depth for each of these players. I will a little bit for Jamie Benn, just because I haven't talked about him yet, but the first nominee, Jamie Benn of the Dallas Stars. Second, Alexander Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals. And third, Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens. Jamie Benn had an unbelievable year for the Dallas Stars. 87 points. He won the Art Ross Trophy. Who would have thought? I mean, last year Ben had an unbelievable year with Tyler Seguin, but who would have thought going into this year that Jamie Benn would lead the league in points on a Dallas team that missed the playoffs? When's the last time a player won the Art Ross on a not playoff team? It may have happened in the last few years, but actually, did the Tampa Bay Lightning make the playoffs in 2013? Because if they didn't, then it was Marty St. Louis, and it actually does happen often. But, I mean, Jamie Benn was just unbelievable. I'll never forget. I've said that a lot. I'll never forget this year. It was an amazing season. But Jamie Benn, last game of the season, he gets 4 points. He gets 4 points to win it. I mean, I remember that night, Ben, Tavares, and Crosby, I think it was, those 3 guys were neck and neck, and then Ben just took it over. I mean, he had an unbelievable last night of the season and just took it. It was like the last 10 seconds of the season he won the award. It was crazy. Great job, Jamie Benn. But again, I made my arguments for Ovechkin and Price. This one, I'll say Ovechkin, just because I gave Price the Hart, so I'll give Ovechkin the Ted Lindsay. I won't give Price both of them. So, and I don't have to pick one. I'll give Price the Hart and Ovechkin the Ted Lindsay. Is that fair? I mean, the Hart I would consider more prestigious, but I'll give Ovechkin the Ted Lindsay, okay? But yeah, I mean, that's one vote on the Players. Players Association, I could see voting for Ovechkin. I'll give the Players Association one to Ovechkin. I'll give it to him. But again, I can see Price winning it. Even Ben, I can see winning it. But I have to say Ovechkin. And if not Ovechkin, of course, Carey Price. Up next, we're almost done. I mean, this is an incredibly long video. Getting on 35 minutes now, but only 3 more. First up, the Jack Adams Award for the best coach of the NHL. Up first, Bob Hartley of the Calgary Flames, Peter Laviolette of the Nashville Predators, and Alain Vigneault of the New York Rangers. Now, this is another tough one, because Bob Hartley, I mean, there's so many Flames in these nominations. The Flames and the Senators, to me, were basically the same team, East and West. But Bob Hartley just had a great year with his Calgary Flames. You know, they came from bottom of the West, bottom of the league last year. They had a top 5 pick, I believe. They signed Jonas Hiller. They grabbed Johnny Gaudreau, the rookie, and they just took off this year. And Bob Hartley was the coach of that team that just made it to the playoffs, made it to the second round of the playoffs, which was unbelievable, only to lose to the Ducks in 5. But I mean, still unbelievable year for the Flames. So you could definitely make the argument there for Bob Hartley. And then Peter Laviolette of the Nashville Predators, his first year in Nashville. I could have seen Barry Trotz being nominated for this award as well, just because how great he did with the Capitals in his first year. You know, he took the Capitals, who missed the playoffs. It seemed like there was no coach that fit Ovechkin, and that could understand him and, you know, get Ovechkin to buy into the team system. But Barry Trotz did that. He came in and took a team in that bad of a slump. Not only took them to the playoffs, but basically made Ovechkin again. Like I said before, Ovechkin was just himself this year. That's what he was. He was unbelievable. He was Alexander Ovechkin. And Trotz took that team who missed the playoffs, brought them to the second round, Game 7, almost 1 goal away from the Eastern Conference Final. I thought that was amazing, but unfortunately he's not nominated for this award. But Peter Laviolette, I mean, the Nashville Predators, unbelievable year. They were number 1 in the league for a while. For like a month or 2, they were in first in the NHL. They just fell off in the end, but they had an outstanding year. They had home ice advantage against the Blackhawks. Unfortunately, Shea Weber went down with an injury. If Shea Weber hadn't gotten injured, maybe the Predators would have stood more of a chance against Chicago. It was only 6 games. I mean, it wasn't a dominating series by the Blackhawks. Yeah, great year for the Predators. Peter Laviolette, he's a great coach. He's led 2 teams to the Cup. He's won a Cup. He's just known for success. So I could definitely see him winning this. And then another guy who's just known for his success, Alain Vigneault, the head coach of the New York Rangers. And this guy, unbelievable. First amongst active coaches in President's Trophies. He won 2 with the Vancouver Canucks and now 1 with the New York Rangers. I mean, 3 President's Trophies in, what was it, like 5 or 6 years? 6 years now? 5 or 6 years? 4, actually, no. I think 5 years? Yeah, 5 years, like 3 President's Trophies. That's unbelievable. I mean, that's crazy. I believe it was, 2011, 12, and 15. Now he's won President's Trophies. That's insane. And last year, he led the Rangers to the Stanley Cup. He led the Canucks to the Cup in 2011. This guy is just successful. He's just a successful coach. This guy knows how to get it done. He led the Rangers to their best regular season in franchise history. Their best regular season of franchise history. Their first President's Trophy since they won the Stanley Cup back in 1994. I mean, unbelievable year. And they were, unfortunately, 1 game away from 2 back-to-back Stanley Cup appearances. But the Tampa Bay Lightning, Alex Killorn, Andre Palat, I'll never get over that. Just like I won't get over that Alec Martinez goal. But Alain Vigneault, if I had to pick a winner, I'm going to say Alain Vigneault. You could say I'm biased, whatever, but I'm picking Alain Vigneault. He led the Rangers to their best season in franchise history. No comeback story's worth that. Calgary Flames, get out of here. Alain Vigneault, the New York Rangers. Got to give it to him. Up next, GM of the Year award. All right, another thing to be biased over. First up, Bob Murray of the Anaheim Ducks, Glenn Sather with the cigar in his mouth of the New York Rangers, and Steve Yzerman of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, Bob Murray built a great team there in Anaheim, but yeah, that Ryan Kessler pickup was just unbelievable. You know, trading Nick Bonino and Lucas Spiza to get Ryan Kessler. What dividends did that pay? I mean, Kessler was unbelievable, especially in the playoffs. He was amazing. He led the Ducks in the first couple of rounds, and he was on Jonathan Toews all of the Western Conference Final, keeping him quiet. Well, not quiet, but you know what I mean. He was trying to. He was out there. But yeah, Bob Murray built a great team that almost made it to the Stanley Cup. They were one game away. Yeah, I can definitely see Bob Murray being nominated. Up next, Glenn Sather of the New York Rangers. And Glenn Sather, unfortunately, he might step down from the GM position. He's going to go higher up in the ranks of the New York Rangers. He'll stay in the New York Rangers system, but he might step down as the GM this offseason, which would suck. He's a great GM. He might make some bad free agent signings. You know, guys like Gomez and Drury and Redden and all those guys. And Richards, you can't even say Richards was a bad signing because they needed to pay that much money to get Richards signed. Otherwise, he would have gone somewhere else. And Richards, you can't argue with what he did. I mean, he led the Rangers to the conference final in his first year, to the Stanley Cup final in his third. Richards was great. I even saw an interview with Marty St. Louis right before the 2014 Cup happened, and the interviewer actually asked St. Louis if the Rangers are to win the Cup, since they don't have a captain, who would lift it? And St. Louis said that Brad Richards would have lifted it. So you can't argue with that free agent signing, at least. But one thing that Glenn Sather does, he's amazing with trades. He makes the most amazing trades and most of the time signings. He makes some great signings. Kevin Hayes signed as a basically an unsigned draft pick, basically, with the Chicago Blackhawks. They picked him up in free agency. He scored 45 points this season, was number 5 amongst rookies in points, ranked 5. Kevin Hayes just had an unbelievable year. Glenn Sather went out and picked him up. Sather made another great move, trading Michael Del Zotto for Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline had a great year. Glenn Sather's just a great GM. What can I say? He's a great GM. You can say the Ryan Callahan from Marty St. Louis trade wasn't the greatest. Whatever. St. Louis led us to the Cup last year. He had a good regular season this year. He had a disappointing playoff, but we'll see if Marty comes back. But yeah, I can see Glenn Sather being nominated for this. But the obvious winner for me, Steve Yzerman, the GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning. How do you not pick Steve Yzerman to win this award? I mean, Steve Yzerman just... Oh, man, his patience policy, you know, ever since he came into Tampa, patience. We got to be patient, and we will win. And look what happened. This team is set for the next 15 years. The Lightning, I think, like more than half of their roster is under the age of, like, 24 or 25. They only have, like, one UFA this offseason, so they're going to have the same exact team next year. The Lightning have an unreal team. They're going to be a dynasty of the future. You guys wait. Steve Yzerman, that trade, that Marty St. Louis trade blows my mind. From a Ranger standpoint, it was a good deal for the Rangers just because of what St. Louis did last year for the Rangers. But from the Lightning side of it, what a deal. I mean, St. Louis came up to Steve Yzerman, took his arms, wrapped him behind his back, handcuffed him, and said, I want out. I'm going to be traded. You got to trade me. And I only have one team I want to be traded to, the New York Rangers. St. Louis wanted to be traded to the Rangers back in like 2009 or 10. I think it was 2009. But it didn't happen, and he ended up signing a big deal with the Lightning. That expires now. But yeah, it's not like the Rick Nash deal where he told Scott Housen, I have this list of 6 teams. and that was considered handcuffing the guy. St. Louis gave him one team. He said, I want to be traded, and I will only allow you to trade me to the New York Rangers, the Big Apple. And Yzerman not only got it done and traded St. Louis to the Rangers, but he got Ryan Callahan, who is now an assistant captain for them. He's a great leader, just an awesome player. They got him, who's like 20... No, he's 30 years old now. 30 years old. So he's 10 years younger. They also got two first round picks. A first and a conditional second that turned into a first. So you're telling me he traded a 37-year-old, I think he was at the time, 38? You traded a 38-year-old that gave you one option, one team he wanted to be dealt to. You traded him to that team, got a top 6 forward, a top 6 30-year-old forward, who you re-signed that offseason to a 6-year deal, and got 2 first-round picks. Steve Yzerman. Job well done, Steve Yzerman. He's got to win this award, no doubt. And he's just kicking back in his chair. He's like, I've got a great young team here in the future that can win a Stanley Cup the next 10 years in a row. I mean, no, not that, but, they can easily be the Blackhawks of the future. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, Steve Yzerman, definitely. Not being biased there with Glenn Sather there. But yeah, up next, the final award. Finally, we're above 45 minutes now. I hope the audio doesn't get messed up. Really hope. I don't want to clip it up, because that'll be more effort. But hopefully the audio doesn't drop. But the Lady Byng, which is basically the nice guy in the NHL, the nicest player. These guys are nice players. But Pavel Datsyuk of the Detroit Red Wings, Yuri Hudler of the Calgary Flames, and Anze Kopitar of the Los Angeles Kings. And Yuri Hudler, what a year for Yuri Hudler and the Calgary Flames. 31 goals, 45 assists, and 76 points. I remember when the Flames signed Hudler to a 4-year, $20 million deal, $5 million a year. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you signing Yuri Hudler to this insane contract? 76 points. He was top 10 in the league for points. Unbelievable. I know points don't matter with this award. I'm just pointing it out. Pavel Datsyuk. He's 36 years old. He's going to be 37 in July. He scored 26 goals, 65 points in 63 games. He was an above a point per game player after coming back from an injury. Oh my God. What a player Pavel Datsyuk is at this age. I mean, it's unbelievable. You look at Brad Richards. I'm not saying that Brad Richards is a bad player. Or no, not Brad Richards. Mike Richards. Let's say that. Mike Richards is 31, 32, maybe even younger, maybe even 30 years old. The guy's in the minors. Datsyuk is 37, and he's still above a point per game player, or at least this year. And then Anze Kopitar, last year he had 70 points, this year he only got 64. He actually dropped from a plus 34 to a minus 2 from last year to this year, which is, I'm really surprised he's nominated for 2 awards. But where the nice guy thing comes in is penalty minutes, basically. The guy who's sportsmanship and all that kind of stuff. Datsyuk only had 8 penalty minutes this year. Kopitar only had 10, and Hudler only had 14. I'm just going to go with the lowest player and my favorite of the 3, Pavel Datsyuk. I'm going to say Pavel Datsyuk wins this award. I want to wrap this up really quickly. And one last thing I want to say. Guys. Whoever makes the list of the nominees for these awards, I know they couldn't see into the future of the playoffs, but why was the Norris Trophy winner, the MVP of the playoffs, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 2-time gold medalist, Duncan Keith, not nominated for the Norris Trophy? He could have won the thing if he was nominated, but he wasn't. I don't know why. Well, I know why. I mean, during the regular season, there were other guys that were better, but come on. Duncan Keith. He deserves the Norris, man. I was looking at the nominees for all these awards just to look back as a refresher, and I looked at the Norris, and I was like, wait, where's Duncan Keith? Because I didn't see him. I wish I could just, erase Drew Doughty's name and put in Keith and say Keith would win it. But yeah, I just had to get out the one last blur there. But yeah, so after 50 long minutes, almost an hour, if you're still watching this video, you're amazing. So So yeah, if you enjoyed, please leave a like, and like I said at the beginning of the video, please leave a comment down below. If you disagree with any of my comments, or if you agree on who I think will win the awards, or let me know. If you think Duncan Keith, if you agree with me that he should win the Norris Trophy even though he wasn't nominated, special rule or something for playoff MVPs. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed. It's good to be back. I haven't recorded in a while. It's good to be back. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.